I'll be straight up. That's a first. Good evening, guys. If there's anyone in. Is there any? That's the only thing I can't see. If we got anyone in the chat, you have to communicate. You have to type something in, say hello, and I'll know you're there. It would help. Put the comments on. There's a weird noise coming from behind me then. Still doing it. Ugh. Fair strange. How are we all doing? Is there anybody in the chat? What am I doing? Oh God, no, wrong button.
Right. Let's go. Are you ready, Mr. Paranormal Pillow, everybody? Hello, everybody. Are you ready?
Good. Mr. Paranormal Pillow?
Oh, did I say pillow? Mr. Paranormal Pillow. Evening from outer space. Lee has joined us. Good evening, everybody.
Evening, Lee.
It's now time for you to sit back in your chair and relax. Let your thoughts to the deepest, darkest parts of your brain. Let Russ take you on a journey through knowledge. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages. Welcome to Journey Through the Unexplained, live and exclusive. Pulse Talk Radio, Facebook and YouTube. And perhaps I shouldn't have gone too high with my voice because I feel like I'm going to cough straight away. Perhaps I should have just taken it nice and simple, but I keep swallowing or just do a little. I should be all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Hello, Mr. Paranormal Paul.
Hello, good evening. How are we doing?
We are doing fine. Living the dream, so to speak. Living the dream.
Good.
Living the dream. How's your week been? All right?
Not too bad, mate. A little bit slow this week. It's been nice. I've just had to regroup. So, not rushed off my feet this week. Always good.
Living the dream. Sorry, I'm just resharing the live feed, so it's just me re-echoing. So, don't worry about that. Nice and slow. Is that a good thing? Bad thing?
It's not great when it comes to money at work, but it's sometimes nice to just have a bit of a chilled one, you know?
Yeah, I think you have to, though, don't you, sometimes? You can't be full bore all the time.
No, it's done me a favour. Get myself, I'm off in a few weeks. We're going to the magical land of Disney Paris. So, and that's going to be full on. So I think a nice steady approach to that would be good.
Paris. Wait, is it you driving or
No, train?
Training it? Can you still get it from? So you can't get it anymore from local areas. Can you have to go into sort of like Waterloo?
St Pancras.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't do direct anymore since COVID for some strange reason. So we've got to change over when we're on the when we're in France, which is a bit of a pain in the arse. But there you go.
Ebbsfleet and Ashford, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because last time I went, we was Mark was little, 4 and 6, and we had to go from St Pancras in. They said it didn't stop anywhere over here, but it literally got just past Purfleet on the other side of Kent, and then it stopped and let other people on. I thought, well, I could have been there in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't. We didn't get that option, so I was a bit annoyed about that.
Oh, I don't blame you. Do not blame you. What was I going? There was a question I wanted to ask you, but I forgot it. Welcome everybody in the chat. I've seen people coming up in the chat. Lee's in the chat. Welcome. You may hear me coughing and spluttering. I've got a tickly throat, guys, so you might have to just bear with me tonight. It might be one of them ones that just all of a sudden I have a coughing fit. I'll try and keep my voice from like monotone. I won't try and get excited because you raise your voice and it tiggles, doesn't it?
It does.
So I'll try to not let the back of my throat tickle. I haven't said thank you to the lovely Philip Solomon. So thank you, Philip, for taking us through the last hour over on Pulse Talk Radio. He was talking about Mary Magdalene at the end of his show there was a program apparently last night regarding how she's now been taken into the Catholic faith, I believe, something like that. I didn't get all of it, so I wasn't listening to all of it. So it'd be interesting to see if there's anybody out there that saw that program, to see what that was going on. But I might try and catch that because it sounded quite interesting, didn't it? Right, we have got a sort of a schedule for tonight, but I just want to before we do, I'm going to throw it. This is what I wrote a question. I get told off if I say it wrong, don't I? I just want to touch on something before we go into the main essence of the show. Okay, Paul, you sent me a video at the beginning of the week. Okay, regarding Pope.
Regarding what? Sorry,
Pope. Remember the Pope video?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I just want to quickly touch on that because we have spoken about this, and we did come to sort of the conclusion that this happens all the time. But do you feel what happened at Christmas with this Pope opening the doors and things like that? Do you think this has caused this? Can you see a link between what is going on with the Pope and what was happening? I know they do it sort of every 4 or 5 Christmases.
25 years, wasn't it? What he done?
Yeah, which is quite soon.
It is. Do you know what? It would be interesting to find out if anything similar happened to the Pope at the time. Last time it was opened. Might make a note of that and see if I can.
Yeah, look. That's what. Yeah, we was just talking about that. The Pope has acknowledged Mary Magdalene. Did you hear? Yeah, we was just. I haven't sort of looked into it, but I was listening to Philip's show, and Philip was talking about that prior to the end of his show. There was a program on telly last night regarding it, apparently. But no. So going back to that question.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on it?
That was my first go-to. I think that's why I sent it to you when I saw the video, because he's not been very well at all, has he? Bless him. And apparently he was screaming and shouting from his hospital bed that the demons are coming to get him, and he had to be sedated.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of that. That was kind of my first go-to, but I don't know. I mean, I don't really know or look much into exactly what's wrong with him. I think he had a respiratory disease, didn't he?
Well, he had a lung removed, or part of his lung removed, when he was young.
Right.
Due to pleurisy. So
he's vulnerable anyway, isn't he? With that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it depends on the kind of illness and drugs you're under at the time as well. If something makes you hallucinate, surely it's going to bring forward the things that you're most fearful of.
Evening Heidi, evening Joe. Welcome to the chat. Yeah, I sort of feel that this has a link. I really do feel that this has some link to what happened on New Year or Christmas Eve or Christmas period. I don't quite know when it happened in hindsight with everything, but I generally do feel that him removing these seals to these doors. Evening Joe, new listener. Joe this is Joe Witten, one of my good friends. I met him I haven't seen him for a long time, and we just crossed paths in my mate's shop, and he is well down the rabbit hole with us. So yeah, I thought I was the only one, but Joe, welcome to the show. We've got quite a few people in here tonight, so we're going to get on to the main topic, but I just was quite interested in sort of, I think that's linked. I think what happened Christmas Eve or Christmas night is linked to what's happening to the Pope at the moment. I think something chronic went on, because I know people said it happens every, whatever it was, 25 years, but I do believe something else went on that night that was different. I really do. I do generally believe something went on, because I do believe they opened up another catacomb or another,
another doorway, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know they call it Lucifer's tomb, even though Lucifer potentially isn't buried there or whatever we talk about, but they opened another door. And I think this is, look, we've had no, confirmation of regarding to these demons and the Pope. We're taking it anecdotal evidence from a video. We haven't the Vatican haven't confirmed.
No, exactly. Yeah,
demons were fighting. He was fighting demons in the middle of his hospital bed, which, for a religious man on some form of drug, hallucinations are very possible. Very possible. So, but I think it's linked. I generally do think it's linked. Really do. But we are going to talk about a topic tonight. We are going to go down. Paul sent me a video, okay? And it got me thinking. It really got me thinking. And even doing a little bit of research tonight prior to the show, and people go, Russ, you never did research. No, I didn't do that much research. I did about 30 seconds and just typed it into Google and see what come up. But I'm going to play a video, okay? Please be aware this is very American based, but we will link it to obviously what you think we're going to link it to. I'm going to play the video. It is only a video of audio, so please pay attention to that. It's about 4.5 minutes long. So just enjoy it, listen to it, and see what you think of it, guys. All right? Let me load it up. It's never there when I want it. How can I be that far away? I've only messaged you about 20 minutes ago. Right. Here we go.
So we learn about one fire. We learn about the Chicago Great Fire.
There was a lot of fanfare over Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicking over the lantern.
The legend is that Mrs. O'Leary's cow in a barn kicked over a lantern, and that caused the entire fire. And poor Mrs. O'Leary and her family had their lives ruined because of this.
I remember going to summer camp, and we're sitting around the campfire, and it's one dark night when we were on that. Oh, Miss O'Leary took a lantern to her shed, and when the cow kicked it over, she turned around and said, there'll be a hot time in the old town tonight. Fire, fire, fire. And we would yell fire louder and louder with each verse. And we do this like 10 times to where it was echoing back to us across the lake. And now when I think about it, it's like how many kids are singing this song about this stupid story. It's like an incantation, and it's spellcasting. Where did this song come from? Well, lo and behold, as an architect with a keen interest in history, I come to find out only within the last few years that there were fires in every major city. And then I come to find out that it's not just wooden shanty town built out of matchsticks. We're looking at city after city.
New York, Boston, you come down to Florida, Jacksonville, Miami. Every major city at one point was burned to the ground. Infant metropolises that were burned down as if they were made from wood very quickly. Now we can speculate as to what the source of that destruction was, from above, from below, arson, biblical destruction, you name it. Nonetheless, every major city in America, if not Europe, the entire world, saw a great devastation by a fire.
Pictures are strange. The sequence of events that are supposed to have taken place are strange. Just a lot of clues. So again, they're saying, okay, everything was built out of wood, it caught fire. So we came in and we built all of these beautiful structures to make sure they wouldn't burn down again.
You look at any major city, they suffered this same fate. In Jacksonville, we actually had a fire where there are firsthand accounts of people who were escaping the fire. They were sitting up on a hill watching Jacksonville burn. They said that things on their persons started spontaneously combusting. Things that were made of certain materials were combusting. This was happening back in the late 1800s. No suitable explanation. But they're in a covered carriage. What happens? Materials on their body are still spontaneously combusting out of nowhere. Now, how could that be the case if this is a local fire spreading to anything that it touches? These people were hundreds of yards away, and you can go look up your own city, the closest major city to you, and you'll find the same fate.
Seattle burned down, the downtown. 2 months later, Ellensburg, which was at that time a major city in central Washington territory, burned down. 2 months after that, Spokane, which was another major city on the eastern flank of the territory. And when I discovered that, I just went, hold on a second. Like, there's something else entirely going on.
Some are still in use, but the ones that are inconvenient to the narrative, they just want gone. And there's also probably a component of the energy grid in all of this as well. Keep what they can use. They keep what benefits them. And at some point they determine, okay, we don't need that anymore.
Part of the story of the fires is that the fire chief wasn't in town at the time. He was away on some conference. And so the command structure was broken. So the mayor at the time in Seattle was the one that was calling shots. And he was making decisions that they should go in and make what they call fire breaks between buildings, meaning actually bringing dynamite into buildings and blowing them up. And that's acknowledged. And that's acknowledged in Boston, the Boston fire, in city after city, what's called a tactic to contain fires. And then they often say, well, look back and, in retrospect, maybe it wasn't the best idea.
Well, I find that really interesting. Because, and I know we can put it to the American, it's very heavily American sided, okay? But we obviously had a Great Fire of London. Was it 1666? Was it 1666? Am I getting that date right? The Great Fire
Yes,
of
I
London.
believe you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, 1666.
And didn't we all have a song that we used to sing about that when we was at school as well? Don't ask me to sing it because I don't remember it, but I definitely
Did we have a song regarding the Great Fire of London, or was it London Bridge?
It's burning down. But wasn't that
London Bridge is burning down, burning down, burning down. London Bridge is burning down. It's very repetitive. Just like what this gentleman said. It's repetitive. It's an incantation. It's like spell work. So I found that very interesting. That comment alone is like spell work. I'm just going to write that down because I will forget to ask that question. Now, not to say that I can fit everything in that, okay? Because I can't.
No.
But I do want to go along the lines of why are they burning it down? That's who and why are these burning these down? And as I said at the end, I think it is to sort of regenerate an area, restart it again. For what reasons? I don't know. But then that got me thinking, well, if it's done in America, where else has it been done? So I just typed in great fires around the world. And so before 1700, so 64 AD, okay, we had a Great Fire of Rome. In 1600, a North Walsham Great Fire. 1615, Great Fire of Wormingwood. In 1652, Great Fire of Oulu. I don't quite know where Oulu is. where's that say, youngs? In Finland. We had a Great Fire of Meraketi in Tokyo that floored. These are all prior to 1700. The Great Fire of Constantinople, Istanbul. The Great Fire of London. We had the Great Fire of Haverhill. We had the Great Fire of Northampton, and we had the Great Fire of Warwick. All major cities or towns. And all quite important towns. Okay, North Walsham wasn't, I won't say North Walsham was, maybe back then was quite, but you're talking about Warwick, where there's a castle there. You're talking about Constantinople, all sort of quite major cities for their times, and they've flattened them, totally burned them. So Mickey has joined us. A little late, but glad I'm here now. Evening, Mickey. Be interesting to know if these places also had a song to relate to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Does anyone? I say, was it what you was thinking regarding London bridges burning down, Paul, or was you thinking of?
No, I think it could have been that. I just remember there was a song when we talked about London burning, but it wasn't until you started singing it straight off the bat, which made me feel.
But then around the same sort of incident, so we're talking about a lady that goes into a cow shed. The cow kicks over the lamp. Fire starts.
Great Fire of London, the candle in the bakery, wasn't it?
Exactly that.
It's all the same old story. And how do they really know that, though? Let's be honest.
Yeah, this is. But then I also go along the lines of modern day. Okay, we've had great fires in, haven't we? In Hawaii,
Chile, LA,
and bad ones, and they've all had associations with blue beams coming from the sky. They've all been witnessed. Someone in that time has witnessed the blue beam. I know Joe sent us a video regarding the blue beam and things don't get touched. Now, going back then, that could have been erased in history quite easily. These big, we're going back to, 1700s. And
Alexandria.
Yeah, when was that? I did see Alexandria on here.
I mean, that's going to help them. But this is what I'm saying. That they make it sound like they're all old wooden shacks, old shanty towns. But they're not. A lot of them are brick built. And the brick buildings, they all got burnt down as well.
Is what I will say is Oulu, or if I could be saying it wrong, Oulu, it's Oulu, has had 3 fires. Great Fire of Oulu in 1652, Great Fire of Oulu of 1705, and the Great Fire of Oulu in 1845. That's had 3 fires in a little town of Finland. And I lie, it's had 4 fires. The Great Fire of Oulu in 1916 as well. I lie, it's 6. No, 5. 1882 as well. So it's had one in every century. Apart from, that's the 90s. So that would have been the 19th century. So it hasn't had anything in the 2000s. There's a long way to go yet, isn't there? I bet the Vatican will never burn down. Devil looks after his own. That's potentially, but it does sound like the devil's having a pop at him at the moment, in what I feel. So, in one way or another. But what was it? So that gets me thinking. What was there? Is it like what you were saying, Paul? Is it there to regenerate the area, reset it?
Or to like what was commented on there, or was it to erase certain things as well? You know, when I hear about a lot of them places, I hear a lot of talk about old Tartaria and trying to erase all evidence that it existed. You don't really hear much about Tartaria, do you? And it was a definite civilization, quite a far advanced civilization. And, you know, they were said to have had free energy. They knew how to harness the atmospheric energy into free energy. So, and like when we had the show before about the world fairs, apparently they were using a lot of Tartarian infrastructures and inventions to run the cities, because they never would have been able to produce the amount of electricity it took to run them cities. And they were only up for what, between 3 and 6 months or something, and then they just demolished the whole cities.
Yeah.
So Tartaria was one of the first things that come into my head as well. You know, because no matter, every major city has some kind of, especially in America, when you see these massive buildings, and they're saying, well, from when America was supposed to have been first civilized, when people first went over to America, there's strong accounts that there was cities already there. They just took them over. And a lot of the cities, when it says on the front, you can see that from the old pictures as well, looks like the bottom half of it's been covered by the mud flood, so to say. And you can see them digging down to sort of reveal the rest of the building. And where it's got the date on the top of it, you can, a lot of people saying they just add the 1 at the beginning. So it's adding an extra 1,000 years on the building.
That's
And
interesting.
don't forget, these buildings, they all say founded in. It never says built in 1886 or whatever. It's founded in 1886.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it.
The year it was found, and then when you look at these old pictures of apparently them building it, all you never see the horse and carts and how they got all these materials in to build them. All you see is people look like they're just refurbishing them. They've got a bit of old rickety old wooden scaffolding and a paintbrush in their hand.
Yeah, I say
there's never any pictures or evidence of them actually building them.
You think of, like, you know, the Great Fire of London. You know, let's bring it closer to home, because we're in England. Okay, now I don't quite know how London was built back in them times, but I'm assuming that a lot of it would have been wooden, potentially. Yeah. But still, a lot of it would have been brick at some point. Now, it must take a lot to build in brick, because you see house fires, and majority of the time, the actual structure, bar the roof, because the roof is wooden, still stands. Still stands. You know, you still get the squareness with the black, you know, the soot coming out the windows, but the roof could have imploded in on itself. But you look at some of these pictures that was taken in some of these fires, especially in modern times, the ones that are from, you know, Hawaii and LA, we're talking about bricks and metal and proper things that should only burn at extremely intense heat, to a nothing, to a paste, to a dust on the ground. I don't see that being feasible. Even back then, we're talking about flattening. And, you know, like the things that stood, you know, like Joe was saying there, I will pick on that sort of comment, the Vatican. I'm still associating the Tower of London was still there. I don't know when the Tower of London was built, to be fair. It may have been prior to the Great Fire of London. But I'm assuming
it was. It was blimey, what was it? 1100s, 1200s, something like that, wasn't it? Or it was earlier than that, if I remember rightly.
So we're talking about them things still standing and hardly touched. So I do wonder. I do seriously wonder, and I'd love. This is where you'd love just time travel to go back and see what actually happened that night. As a modern day, looking for the blue laser, looking for the blue thing, looking for sky interaction at these times, because I can get. I would put my life on it. You would see some form of interaction from the skies of this blue beam of some form. And I'm not talking about Project Blue Beam. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this weapon of destruction that is being used today. Of course, it will be a bit different because even where it's come from, it would be a process of evolution as well. You know, it would have had some form. Let's have a look at some of the questions coming. Was things discovered at this point in these places that the human race wasn't yet to discover, so it had to be taken out till such times? I think you're right. I think that leads to the actual question. I think is one of my key answers. I think these towns that, and I know it sounds silly, I know it sounds really silly, but I don't think you'll see it in major cities anymore. I don't think you'll ever see a big fire in London that rips the whole city apart. I don't think you'll see it in New York or Washington or, you know, all the major, you know, like I think Munich, you know, Paris. I just don't think you would anymore because you don't see too much of anything else in them places anymore. You don't necessarily get weather in them places anymore. Weather to stop you. But the north of England and the surrounding areas, the circle around London, you know, I think you could quite easily use the M25 as a cylindrical place around London. If you live within there, I think you feel, you know, the weather, you don't necessarily get snow. You don't get snowed in. We don't get snowed in, do we?
No.
You
know, it seems to have had like a bit of a protection bubble, doesn't it?
Exactly. And that's where I think all these big, and this is what I'm saying, I think is what's happening is it's going to be the areas outside of these places that are still on the cusp of something. I really do.
Well, it's like the lady said in the video, isn't it? You know, if there's something in them cities that goes against the narrative they're trying to push, they've got to get rid of it. And so that's sort of going along with this question here. It's, you know, back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, you've seen the videos of full electric bikes, cars, you know, scooters, self-charging, mind. You didn't plug them into the grid. They were self-charging. You're talking over 100 years ago. What happened to that technology, and why didn't they want to push forward with that? Because they wouldn't make any money out of it. So they've got to quash it.
But I think that, to be fair, I think we're at that sort of point again. I really do. Now, I take a phone for an example, yeah? Your modern day phone. You only have to now, don't plug anything in the bottom, you just place it on something and it will charge.
Yeah.
Wireless charging. Have you ever held, there's the charging plate, have you ever done that? So you hold it above the charging plate?
No, I haven't.
It still charges. So electric is wireless at some point. It has the ability to go there.
Oh, yeah.
So I do think that we are in this time lapse again of pushing that narrative to the point. I really do think we're on that sort of, you know, we're going along this AI route now that I think is a very, very dangerous catalyst. Very, very dangerous catalyst. And, you know, the two people that are pushing this at the moment, I don't like. They worry me. They worry me. The only thing that worries me about the situation is, with Elon Musk, is that I think we've got enough evidence out there through films and things like that to say AI can have a technology against us. That will be the next war in my eyes.
Yeah, scary, isn't it?
Did you see the video regarding the AI chat? Have you seen that video?
I've seen many. I don't know what one you're on about.
There's AI now. You can ring up a hotel and it goes through to the automated AI assistant.
God, yeah, and they start communicating in the computer
their own
language.
language. Do you want to talk in your language so no one can understand us? Like, how can that be a thing?
Yeah.
That can't be, I know it's a video and I could be overlooking it as, once again, just a fake video, AI producing an AI video. I get all that. But I think that the great fires that potentially may have to come again would be wiping that AI out. Would have to wipe that AI out. I think it's the only way. Joe put a message here that leads onto the narrative that the airplane fire at 9/11 burnt the steel frame and caused the House of Cards type collapse. Exactly, Joe. Exactly on that. There's enough evidence with 9/11 to say that obviously what went on there.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I'm not saying that
they've pretty much admitted, haven't they, that it was a controlled demolition now. There's the way they broke it down and the blueprints of the building, there is not a single possible way that building would have collapsed like that.
No, I totally agree.
Never. And they've pretty much said it in Congress, but no one's getting the blame for it. No one's getting the blame for, well, who did do it then?
But they never will they? They never will, because it's a deep state, whatever you want to call it, running things. But this goes, and that's what I'm saying. When you talk about this, sort of, let me. So what I'll do is, can I share the screen? And I'll just show you all the great fires. Okay, so it's only Wikipedia, guys. Nothing. So there's all the ones before. See Olu there. Got Olu there. There's Is that No, that's not Tartaria, is it?
No. I don't very much Tartaria. We listed on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Bradford. Oh no, sorry, Bedford, Detroit, Stevenage. There's big cities. Hamburg.
Yeah.
New York. Newcastle, Gateshead, Canada, Portland, Quebec City, Whitstable, Chicago, Boston, Key West, Vancouver. Don't quite know where that one is. Is in India. Great Fire of India. Loads. And then we come into sort of the 1900s. And the one that gets me the most is the Second Great Fire of London. Did you know about that one? What they're calling the Second Great Fire of London? It's actually the Second World War.
Yeah, the Blitz.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Now that, that obviously would have been sort of bombs from it. Do you know what I mean? And that would have shattered buildings. So I think that we're getting crossed here because we're going backwards and forwards, because I wish the chat was just a bit faster from linking when you write it to where it gets to us. Lee, you sent me an AI video. Paul sends me a load. Joe sends me a load. You send me a load. I watched a video that showed that currently AI is at 160 IQ. Is 160 Einstein's about 170, but when the new quantum chips are produced soon in the USA by the South Koreans, the IQ is predicted to go to 1,500 in just 3 to 5 years. That is scary. That is scary. And this is where I want to say is these fires will come back into play. You know, just to wipe it down, just to clear it.
I see. I watched a podcast actually about the IQ of AI, and it already surpasses Einstein. For what it knows and how quick it solves problems and works things out, it's already 10 to 100 times smarter than Einstein ever was. So I think it's even more than that. And that's just since it's been bought out. And I mean, I watched this, I think it was just before Christmas, to be fair. So yeah, you can only imagine. How do they cap it? There is no cap on it. There's no filter on it.
But what happens to the human race? What happens to the human race when this kicks in? We're not going to be needed.
Well, it's not so much that. It's the scary thing, isn't it? It comes back to like your Matrix and the Terminator movies. You know, it's the AI. I've seen many people asking Chat GDP or whatever it's called, and all the other ones about the link between AI and human, and it's saying we want to work together. You know, this is AI speaking. Don't treat me as a threat. Treat me as an ally and a friend. I'm here to help you do better for yourself, and blah 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 blah. But what happens when AI realizes that you're not listening to me? I'm telling you what you can do to help yourselves and the planet and the fellow humans. Why aren't you listening? And that's when to me the scary part comes, because will it then take the next approach? Well, if you're not going to listen, then you can see that you're destroying yourselves, the planet, the this, the what, the that. Then I've got what's that? What we've been talking about for the last 3 years, you know, a bit of depopulation and make people realise that that's the scary thing. That's where it could end up.
I think it's going to. How can you not work? You know, that is just grooming material, isn't it? I'm not a threat. No, I'm not a threat. I want to work with you. Yeah, don't be scared of me. So we give it everything it wants, and that's the scare. That scares me more than anything. AI scares me more than anything. It really does, because that is not to say obviously these fires are caused by this AI, but I think it's where my personal belief is that these fires are caused by incidences throughout time, just like what Lee said, that the human race can't cope. There's something that we shouldn't have, or something that you know, as you say, unlimited power for nothing. They're never going to let us have that, even though it's there. We know that.
It's not even just that, I don't think. I think it always comes down to the same thing, Russ. It comes down to greed and power. It's people, you know, look at the government now. They're not there to tell us what to do. That is not their job. And yet that's all they do now. They're there to listen to the common man, you know, and work in our best interest, not their best interest. Everything's gone shipped about face, and this is the trouble. And I think this is what it's always come down to. You give people too much so they can be self-sufficient. You don't need a government. You don't need someone to, you know, if everyone's working together and surviving together and happy together, then there's no need for someone to have control of it. but that's where they get their money and power from. It's all about greed, and that's where I always go back to.
So let me put the let me put the Great Fires into that then. So do you believe then, is that potentially why these so-called big incidences, including these fires throughout time, it seems to be that fire is the easiest thing to clear something, to cause mass devastation without causing too much, you know, interference and normality, because we can always have like street fires, someone drops a match on the floor, you know, poor old whatever her name was and her cow, and you know, very suspect situation of burning down a whole city.
But it gives everyone something to focus on, doesn't it?
Yeah, but this, and that's what I think my point is that the deep state, what we call the deep state, or the underlying powers resetting the scenario?
I think it could be, because, you know, we don't know what was going on at the time. Was that city getting too big? Was it starting too many people? Was they struggling to find enough food and water for everyone? You know, if you're starting to struggle, if the people in charge, because I guarantee the people in charge never suffered. I guarantee they had somewhere safe to go.
Yeah.
So that's you know, sort of quell the crowd a bit, get rid of some people. They'll all be too busy blaming what's her face and the cow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they'll all be angry at her. We'll come in, try and be the peacemakers. Right, we'll have to try and settle this. We'll do some makeshift buildings over there, so we got some food coming. So they're then reliant on the government again, the people in charge again. We must, and they'll begin there. Listen, we can help you, but you've got to work with us. You know, we've got to help each other. Then they're reliant on them again. That's my sort of theory anyway. If that is the reason why these fires do happen as well, you know,
I can see that.
Suppressed.
Yeah, they're hiding something. It's to wipe the you know, wipe that slate clean again. You know, it's just to wipe it, and for want of a better phrase, no different to I think what's happening over in Gaza with Donald Trump. They wipe the slate clean again. We'll knock it down, build it up to something that is more, you know, it's that same pattern, if that makes sense. So I've written down a couple of questions, okay, with to do with these fires. And now, two ways of looking at it. Do you think the fires are caused? Let me just read the questions before we move on. Right. Heard a theory that was a new one the other day, when AI becomes that intelligent and that it just leaves Earth and goes elsewhere, could be a possibility. That's like a film, isn't it? That's like a film thing. That'd be a great bit for a film, wouldn't it? It's a little bit like that film, The Moon, isn't it? Is it, you know, the thing in the moon?
Yeah. With that was like an artificial intelligence, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I can't think what the film was. It called The Moon, or The Dark Side of the Moon, or something like that.
Moonfall.
Yeah, watch that, Lee. Watch that film, Moonfall.
Great film.
Yes, AI will see us as a threat and eliminate us, and that's where I think the fires will happen. I think that's the only way they'll get rid of it, burning all the data banks down and everything just to reset it. That's how I see it anyway. Right. So, two questions for you, guys and Paul. Okay. Is it possible that the fires are to fit the narrative of what we're taught? Are these fires there already pre-planned? You know, when we talk about Nostradamus, these predictors, you know, a lot of these things have been predicted in time. I do think there was actually one. Let me go back. That was, where was it? Where was it? Oh, where was it, Russell? There was a fire in Germany. Was it on this page? That linked of New York, Chicago. Yeah, it was the arsonist set the I don't know where I'm going with this. Just leave it with me for a minute. I'll read it out, then I can. Arsonist set the Reichstag, the seat of German Parliament, on fire on February 27th, 1933. Adolf Hitler, a rising politician who had just been named Reich's Chancellor early that month, blamed communists for setting the blaze. The Reichstag fire was crucial to Hitler's consolidation of power, says Benjamin Holt, professor and author. It supplied a pretext for an emergency law known informally as Ritchie's Fire Decree, which tore the Democrats apart and put freedom of speech and assembled privacy the mouth of freedom and arrest without charge. As a bit less well known culture, the decree allowed Adolf Hitler to take reins of parliament and the German federal state to maintain order. Some of the state governments were in the hands of determinate opposition of the Nazis, so the power was crucial. To this day, the identity of the arsonists remain in dispute. So that fire was set on purpose to get Adolf Hitler into power, and then has a knock-on effect, potentially, of a timeline. So that one fire, you know, if
that's just changed the entire future, hasn't it?
But then is what that says to me, that fire was on purpose because it fitted the narrative to where the journey of life, what we're taught, needed to go.
Yeah. That's the timeline it followed.
Yeah. But I think it was done on purpose.
Oh, 100%.
So that makes me
knowing exactly what was going to come after it.
Yeah. That makes me feel that these, you know, the likes of Notre Dame and things like that is the narrative. Is the actual narrative. If we follow Notre Dame's path, and I know some of it is really loose fitting, and you have to shoehorn and take a lot of it and think, oh, I can try and wangle it in there, and you can. But what's to say that that wasn't that path that at that time we had to follow, because that is what they needed to happen.
Yeah.
And that's what's then taught in schools, because it's taught in schools. Bit like the butterfly effect and Hitler and the fire. I can't remember the butterfly effect, but I have watched it. But I know it's an absolute brain freeze of a film, wasn't it? The Rockefellers were probably behind it. Probably somewhere, Joe. Probably. You know, there's a long history of them, isn't there? There is a long history. They go back a lot further than people think as well.
And the Rothschilds.
Yeah. So that's what, you know, that's a question that I was asked you. Do you think these fires are deliberate to get the potential plan in place somewhere down the line?
Personally, yes, I do. You've only got to look at the similarities, Russ. When they said in that video as well, you know, just so happened that the night of that fire, the fire chief was out of town in a conference. Look at the recent fires we've had.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this. Carry on.
The people in charge always seem to be out of town.
Hawaii, Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's just the same storybook playing over and over again.
The Rothschild for you. They're the same people, probably.
Yeah.
Probably like a brother-in-law. But no, yeah. I as soon as you started to say that clicked in my brain. That clicked in my brain. I remember us doing a video of the fire of LA, and I remember them saying the police should, come out, was out of town, or they didn't get there, or Rush should ask AI on its prediction of the next great fire to see what it would say.
That would be interesting.
I haven't got the Jack GP thing anymore, I don't think. Have I got rid of it on my phone? Because I changed my phone, I think. Yeah, I think I've got rid of it. It's not on my. It's not on there. Yeah, I haven't got it actually at the moment. So that would be interesting. That would be interesting. They are told to be out of town. Exactly that, Joe. Exactly that.
Yeah.
But that's how it makes me feel. That's how it makes me feel, that these fires are very much some form of whatever it is, they're important. These fires are important to the history of where we're going at the time, to hide or to, what's the word? Where you look a different direction, but we all look in the wrong direction.
Distract.
To distract us. We all pull together. You think, 9, you look at 9/11, how much that pulled together the United States.
Yeah.
You look at these fires, what was built after them. We couldn't replicate that now. We could not replicate, if we had a fire in London, what would London would look like after this? It would be obscure buildings, gherkin shapes,
Well, it's the smart cities, isn't it? That seem to be planned for everywhere. Everywhere we've had a great fire recently there's already a plan for a smart city to go in. Chile, LA, Maui. It's just a bit too convenient for my liking.
Very convenient. Very, very convenient. I'm just trying to get, what was it? Jack GPT. I must have had it. Oh no, go away. Download. Yeah, so I'm just downloading it. I'll cancel that. Open. Right. It's doing something. It's doing something. The chat won't appear in the history. When will be the next great fire, and where? Could you clarify what you mean by next great fire? Are you referring to a significant wild event, historical fire, or something else? Historical. If it tells us something, then we're in for the long run, isn't it? Right. So if we're going by Chat GP, they are sort of subliminally telling us where the next ones are. All right. So it gives you all the great fires. It lists some of them: San Francisco, blah blah blah. If you're asking about future events, it is difficult to predict timings and locations for natural disasters like wildfires. But certain areas with dry conditions and high risk of climate, like California, Australia, or the Mediterranean, are going to be prone for fires.
Yeah, it don't really give you much though, Russ, does it? Because they have fires every year.
Yeah, but it's still predicting. I didn't think it would predict. I must
Yeah,
admit.
yeah.
I thought it would have gone, Joe thinks it's going to be Washington.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it does. It's a sort of prediction here. But something else I wrote down. Another question. Going based on that, okay, fit the narrative. Yeah. Can you think of a plan that potentially went wrong regards to a great fire or leading to a great fire?
Can I think of a plan that potentially went wrong?
Yeah. So it never happened, but potentially could have happened.
As
Goes
in,
to
you're
anyone in the
talking like,
chat.
as in like Guy Fawkes sort of thing, you know?
Exactly that. What would have that caused in London?
Yeah.
A great fire. It would have wiped out another lot of fire, blowing up Parliament. So what went wrong? That's where my brain goes now. Why was that stopped? Was that
because it wasn't the government that was planning it, where all the others they were.
potentially, but I still think that would have been one that should have been a plan.
Yeah.
I really do. That could have been, let's play devil's advocate. Let's play devil's advocate. Maybe it was the deep state that hired Guy Fawkes and was that he was going to do that. But what's to say the government didn't box clever at that time? I don't know who the government, the prime minister or whoever was leading the country at that time would have been, if there was, actually caught wind of that and found that out and stopped that, because that would have altered the course of history.
It would have come from the opposition, wouldn't it? Let's be honest. It would have been an inside job.
Massively.
It could have still been government that planned that, but just the other side.
Blackmail. Say, there must have been something going on there for that to be stopped, because we talk about these events, that would have been it. I don't know if Heidi's still in the chat. I don't know if Heidi's still there. Heidi, have you had any great fires in Denmark? That'd be interesting. I haven't seen any on the list, but then it goes to, I just typed in the fires. Fires that changed history. Okay, fires that changed history. So you had the Great Library of Alexandria.
Yeah.
That got let's see if I can. I shouldn't probably. That's no, because we'll probably get told off for that one. The burning of the Great Fire of Alexandria. The Alexandria Library is a part of the mausoleum. Temple of Muse at Alexandria contained incalculable wealth, the knowledge of ancient world, stored 500,000 scrolls of Egypt.
Documents of ancient worlds.
Exactly that. The destruction was so dramatic, it had been immobilized by playwrights from William Shakespeare. The Great Fire of London, that was a world-changing one. The Great Fire of New York occurred in the midst of the cholera epidemic. That's an interesting one, isn't it?
Well, that sounds like an inside job then, doesn't it? Let's
Stop
get
the
rid of that,
epidemic.
please. Yeah.
That's definitely that, isn't it? The Great Fire of Chicago lasted from October 8th to October 10th. It left 300 people dead, over 9,000 homes, 90,000 homeless. A third of the city was destroyed. Let's see, its great rebuild that occurred in the first wave transfer of Chicago made a new powerful hub for business. So it was built for a powerful hub for business, which is good. Right, but there's this one, okay? The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. Now, how does it? I haven't read this, okay? But this is there's 7 fires that changed the course of history. The Triangle Shirtwaist Fire Factory on March 25th, 1911, killed 146 employees of the Tangle Waste Company who were trapped in the Arcus building in New York City, Greenwich Village. Many leapt to their deaths. In 2 or 3 of them perished in droves by locked exits. No one who jumped was killed. It was a horrific spectacle, said eyewitnesses. Frances Perkins, most of the victims were young women and immigrants, many of whom had come to the United States in hopes of better life. The fire united organised labour and public outcry over the incident pressured the national government to take action to protect workers, leading to new workplace safety laws. Perkins was so outraged that she devoted her life defending workers' rights. She went on to set up the Factory Investigating Commission and become Franklin D. Roosevelt's Secretary of Labour during a New Deal transforming landscape in the working America. So straight away, we've got a monumental change of going forward.
Yeah.
So Heidi is here, Roman Empire. Yes, I'm here. Right. Thank you, Heidi. The Copenhagen Fire of 1728 was the largest fire in history of Copenhagen. Denmark began the evening of the 20th of October 1728 and continued to burn until the morning of the 23rd of October. It destroyed approximately 28% of the city, measured by counting the number of destroyed lots from the, I can't say that word, Castri, and left 20% of the population homeless. And the reconstruction lasted until 1737. No less than 40% of the section was dated back to the Middle Ages and was completely lost. Copenhagen has burnt down 3 times in 80 years.
Perhaps it didn't quite do what it was meant to do the first time round.
It's a little bit like that Ulu, isn't it? What's happened in Ulu that they obviously never got to. Interesting how official records only show 6 people dying in Great Fire of London. Seems low considering back then we didn't have a means to combat big fires. Totally agree, Lee.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Absolutely. Sorry, guys. Go, Paul.
I don't believe it. 6.
No,
Surely
not.
not.
Yeah, not you're saying you're wrong, Lee, but you're right in what you're saying.
Yeah,
Be more dead than that. You know, I'm not saying it was there to kill people, but the Great Fire was there to definitely change the course of history. What does it actually say? What happened?
Alone would have done more than 6, surely.
Oh, hold on a minute. This one will be quite good because these names have come up. Cleveland's Chackahooga River Fire. I don't know how to say it, so sorry if I'm mispronouncing it to all the Americans. Chackahooga, whatever. John D. Rockefeller, first oil refinery was built along a stream that fed into the Chackahooga River. While Rockefeller's oil standards was dumping gasoline into the river, it was also being used as Cleveland's sewer. The river burned 9 times between 1868 and 1952. The fire that broke out on June 22nd, 1969 was relatively small compared to previous fires, but with one critical difference. Many rivers were severely polluted during the 1960s, but the Chattagona River caught on fire just as the national media began to cover the environment as a serious issue. And just as they were growing, national public recognised the urgent need to protect the environment, says John H. Harkred, Great Lake Scientist Advisor, International Associate for Great Lakes Research. In 1969, Santa Barbara oil became a national symbol of indifference and weakness of public regulations. The environment moved needlessly and rallying to burn and protest Charles Hagrid. So, once again, it was done for a reason. To bring in a... Now, is it government or is it deep state? Government, you know, you could argue that one, couldn't you? Both ways. You've got three parties there. Do you know what I mean? Three parties. What's Lee doing? I just used AI on it and gave some of the names in the Great Five of London. Not sure if the names have a meaning. Maybe Russ could have a look, as there may be some links. Yeah, there's nothing. I don't think there is any. I don't know what it signified on the Great Fire of London here. Where's that gone? Oh, that's weird. Doesn't give anything on the Great Fire of London. Eh? What? All right. The Californian wildfires of 2020 aren't the first conflagration to strike during a pandemic. Oh, of course it would have been. The Great Fire of London raced through the city during the Black Plague.
Ah.
That's why. Wipe out the plague.
Of course it is.
So we've got cholera, fire, plague, fire. Isn't it weird? You just sit here and talk about it, and then you find quite common links to why these things have... I wonder if all these fires are coinciding with potentially illnesses. I know it's a big scope to look at, but as Heidi said, there's always a reason. Always a reason. That's interesting.
Well, there you go.
That is interesting. That we've got two fires that we can link to. And wasn't there a fire during the pandemic in America? Yeah, it just told us that, didn't it? Just told us that. 2020. The California wildfires of 2020 aren't the first conflagration to strike during a pandemic. So the California was in a pandemic.
Yeah.
So that leads me to think is, you know, everyone decided to play Wuhan for the leak of the... But what's to say it wasn't California? Not to say it was anything to do with the American people, but potentially...
Fauci written all over. Sorry, I shouldn't say their name, should it?
Yeah.
Had certain people written all over it, didn't it?
Fire in Australia was in the pandemic as well.
Yeah.
We've all got interesting thoughts. That's interesting. That is really interesting. That's, you know, I didn't quite think we
could go right into a conversation if it was like just the two of us down a pub or something having a chat, but you've because I can feel it. You're like, I can't even start to say what I want to say, to be fair, because we would be taken off, I think.
But it's there, isn't it? It's there for everybody to see. I'm not giving you any evidence that isn't there for what I've just read.
No.
There's fires there that have been, not to say they've been started on purpose, but there's been fires started in pandemics.
Mm.
There has been fires started in pandemics. The Black Plague, you know, the bubonic plague was huge. Huge. You know, didn't they have X's on the door and things like that? Red X's, bring out your dead.
All sorts, yeah.
So how do you reset that? How do you reset that as a normal world? Don't think you can you? You know, that has to be what we've just said it is.
But that was always your go-to anyway, wasn't it? With illness like that, it was burn the clothes, burn this, burn that. Make sure the disease don't spread.
That's it. You think bird flu, mad cow's disease, you name it, burn, burn, burn.
Mm.
What's the egg one? Salmonella? Is it salmonella? I don't know if it's salmonella or, you know, bird flu and all that. You know? Remember, always come back. Bury the bad news theory. Exactly that. It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing what you think of in time and how that leads to that. You know, I don't think we had any fires over here, did we? You know, I know we had the closest potential fire, you know, the closest to us was in Raynham. Not like it caused a lot of.
No, it wasn't nothing like that, though, was it?
No, it didn't wipe anything out, but you know, I've never witnessed anything like that. I do believe
that was a different narrative, I think, different agenda.
I do think that I was near a fire at one point when I've been on holiday on an island. It might have been Greece. There was a fire, and we was close to it, and there was talks of being evacuated, but we never got evacuated. So I'm assuming that it was just a, you know, I'm not saying every fire that has gone on in the world has anything to do with it. There is bound to be fires that burn in woodland, dry woodland.
Yeah, but don't forget, Russ, you know, even on their records, they know that sort of, you know, between 80 and 90% of wildfires is arson.
Yeah, just out the window, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, it's not. I mean, they try and throw everything down a different narrative of climate change and things like that. Look at all these wildfires here, there, and everywhere. Yeah, but up to 95% of them are arson. Even the LA fires. Look, they arrested what, 3-4 people? One of them had a flamethrower, for God's sake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It could be something stupid like someone just having a barbecue in the highest hot weather.
Yeah.
Kids are innocent, but not innocent, if that makes sense. I'm not saying every fire that has gone on, but I think we can talk about certain fires. You know, to say that there's been 3 fires within Copenhagen, 6 fires within Onlo. Come on, what are they hiding? I do apologise for yawning, guys. I really do. I know we're nearly there, so you shouldn't have too much left of me coughing. We had Grenfell Tower, although not sure what that was.
You know, that's got to be coming up with nearly 10 years, surely.
It wouldn't be too far away. We had the Great Luro fire. But then again, that's changed the course of building regulations. It's had a knock-on effect.
Yeah.
It's had a knock-on effect. You can't use what they use anymore, can they? That's all got to be changed. That had a knock-on effect that you had that concrete couldn't be used as well, couldn't it? What was it called?
The cladding. It was the didn't they say that a couple of fire exits were all locked up on there as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So again,
it's got to make it more dramatic, isn't it? Has to make it more dramatic. I know that's hard to say, but that's the reality of this world that we live in. It's a silent war. It's a war that is going unseen between us and the deep state or the government, whatever way you look at it, it's a silent war that we don't understand until 10 years after potentially the event, hundreds of years after the potential event has gone on. For me, the Great Fire of London was set alight to kill the bubonic plague. You can't put anything else to that.
No, I think I'm with you on that one, mate.
I do apologise for everyone that's watching me yawning my head off. I really do apologise. And on that note, I think we can call it 5 minutes early. Because I just was also because they didn't want poorer families living within the rich community of Chelsea. Potentially, Lee. Absolutely. There's as you say, there's got to be a hidden meaning somewhere along that line.
This is it. Populations grow, cities expand and things like that. And you've seen it time and time again when different classes of people start integrating with each other. It just don't work, and we're not having that.
Another one. That's the concrete, whatever that was.
Whatever happened to the shit you can't think of schools?
I can't.
Yeah.
That was in a lot of places as well. A couple of buildings got shut down for that. I think we even had an event that we couldn't go into one area because it had that concrete in it around the time that was coming out.
Yeah.
Or there was an event where there was an event coming up. They had their inspection, so we was like 50-50. There was something to do with that concrete that could have potentially stopped an event for us when it was all at its height. So that's quite interesting. But it's all done for a reason. All these fires, not every single fire, I have to rephrase that, but the big fires that we see cause a knock-on effect. From the likes of Grenfell Tower to the likes of Great Fire of London, the Chicago, the New York, even to the point of that, whatever they called it, can't think of the name, the Reichstag fire of the German Parliament has had some form of knock-on effect to where we are and where we sit. What was in the Twin Towers? What was in them places that they set alight? What was it? You had the Pentagon got hit, so-called hit. What was
they
there?
were just going in there to find out what happened to that. So is it $80 billion that they were being audited, weren't they? And they couldn't account for $80 billion or something like that, or even more money than that. And they were meant to be going in there within a couple of days, and then Bosch gets blown up along with the towers.
Exactly.
And the towers were reinsured, wasn't they? Sort of like 2 weeks before it happened. The family that owned it had breakfast in there every morning, apart from that morning. It's coincidence. It's all little things that just,
Yeah, and that's what I say. It changed the course of... It changed history. It changed history. And I do think that's where the narrative goes. In my eyes, I believe that's what is going on. These incidences, if it's fires, if it's war, if it's anything, is done for a reason to put the next stage in place. Whatever's going on with Russia, whatever's going on in America, whatever's going on in Europe, in Israel, Gaza, there's a reason for it. There's a reason to set the next journey through it. And it's not what they're telling us on the news.
Of course it ain't.
The best time will happen is in 10 years' time, if me and Paul still are talking and we are still doing this show, that would come up. What happened, when Donald Trump was in office, with Russia, Zelensky, all of that, what was the knock-on effect to that? We're never going to know until sort of 10 years later. And I don't think it's, the modern day, I do think it's to do with all the riches in their country. Yeah, I can see that. They're putting it, they're telling us that. But long term, I don't think it's anything to do with that. But what it is, who knows?
Mm.
Who knows? But I think we've come towards the end of the show. We're only going to leave you a couple of minutes early tonight. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been a bit different. I'd like to say it hasn't been deep, but it has sort of been deep. It's been eye-opening. And I think
it went a different way to what I was expecting it to go, to be fair.
Yeah. I think it's happened for me. It's opened my eyes that I want to look a little bit more into these historic events that have gone on.
Yeah.
You know, what has caused, are we looking at, upset a lot of people, but to say the Second World War, the First World Wars, what is the knock-on effect of that? Well, quite easily, you can put that down to NATO. A power, a force, a biggest force ever, have all come together since that war. Was that planned for that? To cause this NATO? United Nations, whatever you want to call it. That's huge. The control they have is massive. All backed on to Second World War.
Yeah. Looks like it could be on the decline now, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. So we shall see. The next chapter is to be written, and we are going to hopefully.
We're in the middle of it, mate. We're in the middle of it.
We are, but I think it'll be chapter after chapter.
Mm.
I think we're just at the beginning of the AI chapter, but in the middle of another chapter somewhere else. So,
yeah, but this chapter you're talking about with NATO, mate, that could spur on the AI kicking into gear.
I think it's
Hang
doing
on
it.
a minute.
I think it's doing it, mate. I really do.
Yeah.
But we shall see. We shall see on that one. Guys, thank you ever so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for everyone that has listened to us. Thank you for everyone that has listened to us over on Pulse Talk Radio. We'll be back next week. Take care and stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for everyone that has joined us on Facebook and YouTube tonight. Sorry for me coughing. I do apologise. I didn't cough that much, did I? I done pretty well, I think.
You yawned more.
I did yawn more, to be fair. I could have quite easily just curled up and gone to sleep. Do you know what I mean? I've been up since what? My alarm went off at 4:45 this morning. So, it's been a long day.
It's a long day.
It is a long day. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye, farewell, Avida say good night, and then I will head off to bed. So take care, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.